Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Printavo, the parent company of InkSoft, Printavo, GraphicsFlow, and SignTracker. Welcome to our webinar today. We are going to go over Printavo and InkSoft integration. And if you know a little bit about Printavo, think of it as an ecosystem. You can also say a family of brands. And there's 4 product lines that are part of the Printavo ecosystem. First of all, you have InkSoft, which is our e-commerce platform. You have Printavo, which is our shop management platform. You have GraphicsFlow, which is our GraphicsFlow management platform, as well as SignTracker, the newest addition to our family, which is shop management for sign making. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how we've integrated the Printavo platforms of Printavo and InkSoft into a seamless system for shop management and e-commerce. And what I'd like to do is start off a little slide presentation to give you kind of a high-level understanding. Integration, connecting InkSoft stores with Printavo production. So one of the things that we've seen, customers have very specific niche needs for software. And so one of the critiques that we've gotten over InkSoft over the years is that it doesn't have the robust shop management functionality that a platform like Printavo has. And the converse is also true with Printavo. It doesn't have the robust e-commerce capability. And so the whole idea behind integration is best of both worlds, getting the robust shop management from Printavo and the robust industry-specific e-commerce capability of InkSoft together. You don't have to prioritize your sales engine over your production capabilities. You have the best of both worlds. You have a world-class sales engine with InkSoft, and you have a world-class shop management and production engine using Printavo. The way we connect stores is very simple. You have InkSoft, we have the e-commerce platform. We're generating sales from 3 channels, the InkSoft Designer, InkSoft Stores, as well as proposals. And in InkSoft, proposals are more akin to an invoice or a quotation. And so when I log into my Printavo account from within InkSoft, like you see on the screen right here, it's connecting the accounts. And when I connect the accounts, I now have the ability to share any orders that are generated from those 3 channels with Printavo and get them scheduled for production. This is a seamless integration. They're perfectly connected. And I think one of the questions that we get asked quite frequently, and I think it's a very legitimate question, is, why isn't this a single application? Why can't you just blend this all into one app? And the reason we can't blend it all into one app is because Printavo is a very mature software. It's been around a long time. It's very powerful. It's got its own user interface. It has a set of features for a very specific purpose. And the same is also true for InkSoft. So putting them into a single application would basically be the equivalent of almost a start over, a do-over, a ground-up development. And we don't really see a reason to do that. We already have this brilliant shop management solution in Printavo and this brilliant e-commerce solution in InkSoft. Just getting them working together and coordinating as part of a tech stack was the way that we could deploy this and get this out to our customers. The concept here is scalability. And from my point of view, there's a couple different ways to scale your business. One way is to throw human beings at it. You're growing your business, you're adding additional equipment, you're adding human beings to the equation. That increases your cost because you now have more overhead. And the other way to scale your business is by leveraging technology, doing the same things, but doing them faster and smarter. In a real world example of that, let's just take e-commerce for a second. If we're letting e-commerce do selling for us while we're sleeping, we can do more volume with the same amount of overhead that we currently have. My customers, they'll tell me, the best part of my day is when I come in the morning and see all the orders that have come in from InkSoft overnight. I'm making money while I sleep. We can handle more order volume without compromising any efficiency. And the idea here is to prepare your business for growth and expansion without having to necessarily incur that additional overhead of additional equipment possibly or additional people. And so I want to get into the nuts and bolts of it and really show you what's going on. And so I'm just going to pop in here to InkSoft and I'll show you how I got here and how we got to this store. This is a fairly typical InkSoft store. This InkSoft store was created for a specific vertical market, which would be the school and teen market. We could create different stores for different verticals. For instance, we could create a store for religious groups or a fundraising store or a corporate store or a gift store. In InkSoft, every store operates as its own independent business. It has different settings, different visuals. It can operate standalone. It can be incorporated into a group of stores within a website. Because it's such a powerful web development platform, It can also serve as your entire homepage. It can serve as your company website. What we see with InkSoft is a lot of times people will have their own website that they've developed, and they're just integrating tools from InkSoft into their website. For instance, maybe they're integrating in the InkSoft Designer into their store. This store has quite a few different components in it. First component is this header banner right here. I also have a promo banner up here. I have my basic navigation, and I'm going to scroll down. I put a fundraising component in here. In InkSoft, all of the components have different functionality, and we add components to the website, and then we can use drag and drop and interactive editing to customize all these, and I'll show you how that works in a second. This store is a little bit different because the first thing you're going to see in this store is click on a shirt to add a sport. So when we were talking about adding components to your own website, one of the components you can add is the InkSoft Designer, and we took this a step further is because in this store, if you click on this shirt right here, it's going to automatically launch that design in the InkSoft Designer. The customer can go in here and choose different shirt colors. At this point, the customer wanted to come in here and type in volleyball. It was interesting. I had a customer that I was talking to recently, and he said, my typical store has about 80 designs in it. And I was like, wow, man, that's a lot of work setting up one of those stores. And he was setting it up in a Shopify, and he said it was taking him forever because he had 80 SKUs per store. And I said, what if you just took the number of designs that we were using and maybe made those editable so you didn't have to set up a separate design for basketball, volleyball, baseball, soccer, golf? He said, oh man, that would be awesome. That's what I've done here. Instead of having to populate 80 different graphics, what I've done in this particular store, in this case, I've set up a sharing link so we can link directly to this graphic. But I also, in this store, have a whole selection of templates that are just dedicated specifically to this particular customer. So if I go over here to Browse Design Ideas and I go to East Eagles Designs, these are just designs that I set up specific for East Eagles, and these are all set up in the InkSoft Designer. We can go in here and change colors. We have all the latitude to localize the sport. So I just want to show this is a really interesting use case for the InkSoft Designer, and part of the component that I built into this store was just this concept of being able to just name drop designs that I created. And probably one of the questions that people would typically ask is where these designs come from. These designs came from GraphicsFlow, which is our sister company, which is our graphics management tool. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let me kind of scroll through here and show you some other things I did in this store. I went into my embroidery digitizing software. I use a program called Drawings. I took the vector artwork from GraphicsFlow. I converted it to a patch layout. And then what I did is I exported this image as a PNG file as a rendering. And I also saved this image as a DST file. The DST file is going to be for production, and the file that's the PNG is the one that I incorporated into the InkSoft Designer. So to create this, it was pretty simple. All I had to do is go into this product in the Designer, import that PNG file, and then what I did is I just simply typed in some text in here. Even though it's not digitized embroidery, it still looks really good. And if a customer was to place an order for this, I would simply go back into my embroidery software and key in the words volleyball or soccer or seniors or whatever we wanted to do in here, and I would key this in. So that's another kind of interesting module we built into this store. I built in a module for editing signs. I have a signage design module that's part of an InkSoft Unlimited plan. So if the customer wants to come in here and add a name and do a fundraising program and order these signs, we can do that. There's a lot of flexibility in InkSoft in terms of utilizing the Designer. And there's basically 3 use cases for it. Use case 1, customer uploads their own art, gets a quote, checks out. Use case number 2 is we have all the stock designs that are part of InkSoft. They could access those. Or in this case, I created my own stock designs. Again, this design came from GraphicsFlow. And then the third use case is they just design something from scratch. They start typing in text, maybe upload a piece of clip art and do that. The reason I'm showing you all of this is I want to show you the versatility of InkSoft stores and then how these orders could flow into Printavo. I put some stock merchandise in here that are just ready-made products, and I added those. This morning, I just added these patch designs. I added them as appliques in a senior section, which is kind of fun, and then I put some promotional products in here. Where all these products are coming from is the InkSoft product feed. And so we're linked to about 25 different suppliers. And in this case, these products all came from new products from SNS Activewear, which was fed into my product feed. And then I utilize what we call the rapid product creator to just create these products real quick. So all I did is went over here, hit create, pick this hoodie right here. I'd already uploaded this embroidery design right here. I just clicked on it. I didn't really care so much for the color gold in here, so I created a new colorway. And I actually went in and recolored the gold in the graphic to get a little bit more of an orangier gold. And then that's what created the little virtual sample. All I really have to do is just add it to the store, and we'll just put a price in here, $60, hit finish. And if I want to add that to a store, it's pretty simple. Just go down here, pick a new store component. We'll just say featured products. We'll just say manage products. It's sitting right here, hit plus, done. That's how easy it is to add a product to a store. From here, what we want to do is we want to create an order, and we want that order to funnel into Printavo. In order to create an order, the customer is going to need to click on a product to purchase it. The way this particular store is set up, as soon as that product is transacted, credit card information is collected, it's going to immediately populate into Printavo. So let's just place an order real quick here. I'll go down here and we'll place an order for this t-shirt layout here. And let's just pretend these are orders that are trickling in. And so we've got an order that's a one-off right here, just a single medium. I've got a stack of direct-to-film transfers that are sitting there that I've pre-printed or ordered. And as these orders come in, I'm just slapping them on a shirt, popping them in a shipping envelope, and out the door. In a scenario like that, integration isn't going to be as important because this is a one-off. I don't necessarily need job management to handle that. I just want to maybe print it, bag it, ship it, done. But let's say this is a bulk order now. And this is a bulk order where we've got 12 mediums. We got a nice big old order. I'm going to definitely need to schedule that for production because that's a considerable amount of pieces that I'm going to need to process. I need to be able to squeeze that in. Now, also in this order, you'll notice I already had a baseball cap sitting in there. So I had 12 caps sitting in there as well. And the customer is going to check out. We're just going to send it by flat rate shipping. I'm going to arrange the payment later. In most circumstances, people are going to pay at this point, but I'm just going to hit continue, and then I'm going to place that order. Where does that order go? The order is going into the InkSoft Order Manager, and the order is also going into the Printavo storefronts area. So let's take a look at the Order Manager first. And so I'm going to go over here in InkSoft. I'm going to go to Orders, and we're going to take a look at it. And so here's that big giant order. I'm all excited because I came in the morning and I saw there's a giant order in here. $3,572. Well, I don't really want to proceed with this until I get some money. So I'm just going to call up the customer and we're going to log a payment. So I could send out a payment request, or I could just say, hey, call them up, got their credit card number and logged a payment. We'll go ahead and log that payment. So now that's paid. And what you're going to see over here now is it's updating over here. It's paid. And I can go and screen this out just by stores too. Maybe I just want to look at orders by that particular store. So I'm going to go over here to the stores. I'm going to go to my East Eagle store and see what we got going on in there. All these orders that have been trickling in, they're all saying that they're over in Printavo. I can tell at an instant right now that they haven't been started in production, because if they're in production, they'd have a production status over here. They would say in production in Printavo. But all these orders are over in Printavo. How did I connect the store? If I go over here to stores in InkSoft, I can either globally turn this button on because I've already linked my InkSoft and my Printavo account. I can either link every single store, or I can selectively link stores. And what we've done in this account, we've selectively linked stores. So what you'll see on my East Eagle store down here, you'll notice that that store is actually checked, that it's linked right here. It's in Printavo. I can see what's going on in terms of what's been processed in here. Looks like a fundraising program. So we've raised $972 out of $5,000 in terms of for my fundraising here. But this P right here is indicating that this particular store is linked with Printavo and the orders are going to be sitting over there. So let's go and take a look at Printavo. So I'm logged into my Printavo account. I'm going to go over here to storefronts, and two things I'm going to see. First thing I'm going to see is Printavo merch. If somebody is running a Printavo premium account, they have a basic rudimentary e-commerce capability. That e-commerce capability, it's going to be similar to online order form. So we'll go over into one of these stores so we can kind of take a look at it and see what a Printavo merch store looks like. So it's just an easy way for a customer to collect payment. They can load in products. They have very basic formatting. There's not a lot of aesthetic, and we can run a basic fundamental little fundraising page. But there's not a lot of customization that's going to be going on in the store. And so it's not going to have the same kind of aesthetics. It's not going to function as a standalone website, which is in pretty stark contrast to the InkSoft e-commerce capability. But with that being said, Printavo Merch is pretty useful if you just need an easy way to collect payment and just a simple form where people can go in and put in their quantities, put in their payment, check out, and be done. InkSoft is a whole nother world. And so when we come over here to storefronts, the first thing we're going to see is Printavo Merch, but the next thing we're going to see is InkSoft Stores. And by store, these are all the orders that are coming in for each individual store. Before I processed that last order, what we had was 5 orders. Now I can see that there's 6, and that corresponds to that tally when I filtered by store over in InkSoft. So when I was in InkSoft and I filtered by store, there was 6 orders, and here's those 6 orders right here. What I'm going to do with this store is I'm going to convert these into a Printavo invoice so I can schedule them for production. So all I need to do is click on the store. All the orders are right here. And let's say I came in the morning and I had 50 orders and I needed to collate them all. Printavo is going to do that for me. An interesting use case that I heard from a client not too long ago is they do direct film transfers, and they have to order transfers. They don't produce them in-house. They order from Supercolors. So every time they have an order, they have to compile everything and figure out how many transfers they ordered. And they had a person that was their primary job was just tallying up all these orders as they came through, trying to figure out how many transfers to order. I wouldn't have to do that. And the reason I wouldn't have to do that is we can compile all those orders right here. Over here, I've got the embroidery and the screen print on this order. Over here, I've got, looks like the same graphic over here. And let's see, over here, we've got another order with those same 2 products. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile these. When I add these to an invoice, they're going to be grouped together. So let's go and pick a customer here. And this customer corresponds to the same customer over in InkSoft. Do I really care so much who the customer is? Not so much, because we're going to be using this to track our production. We're not tracking pricing. We do have the ability, if we choose to link back to the InkSoft order just by clicking on a link over here. So what we've done is we've created a list of line items for that particular order. These are the ones that I haven't processed over, but the ones that have been processed and converted into line items are going to be over here. So here's my store, and here's all my line items. So it took the 2 cap orders, compiled it into a single order. There was 2 cap orders for 12 each. It took all the orders for this graphic and this product and compiled it into a line item. And you notice you're not seeing any pricing. We don't have to be concerned with pricing because the money has all been collected over in InkSoft. So this is just that simple high-level view. Now, creates kind of an interesting case for me. In this particular case, I know I'm going to embroider these hats because it's an embroidered graphic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to Edit, and then I'm going to select the imprint, and I'm just going to assign it to be embroidery. But over here, I have to make a decision. This order, it's big enough. It's 146 units. So I might elect to actually direct screen print this as opposed to doing the transfers that I normally would. I might be a little bit more cost effective for me to throw this onto my automatic screen press versus doing the transfers like I do on the smaller orders or the ones that trickle in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this to screen printing, and we're going to go over here and select the process screen printing as opposed to DTF. So we'll go down here and select the process for screen printing, and then I'm going to save this. So now we're set up for production. If you look at Printavo, and something I always like to explain is Printavo is very customizable, meaning you're not having to conform to a workflow that is dictated by software. In Printavo, you set up the workflow based on the way your shop works. And so the way we track jobs in Printavo is going to be with job statuses. And so if you come over here, and for this particular invoice that I'm in, if I drop down my list here, you're going to see all the different statuses that are the general journey of an order that goes through my Printavo account. And let's kind of take a quick look at these, and we'll talk about kind of what they are. This is pretty customized to be similar to a real live shop, even though it's our demo account. The first section right here is all of the quotation related things. And these are in this kind of tealish blue. You notice red means stop, means the quote got turned down. All the money stuff over here is in green, and we're just indicating that we either have collected money or we're waiting to collect money. Everything related to the art department is in orange over here. Anything related into production is going to be in purple. And then all my gray and black statuses, light gray or gray means, hey, it's just ready to ship or pick up. And then black means it's been picked up, it's been shipped, or it's been delivered. And then if I close an order out, I'm going to close it out here. So something really important and key to look at. I do not have to put the production specific steps in here for each process, because we're going to take a side journey when we schedule this for production, because we're going to utilize the Power Scheduler. So this is the journey for an order, whether it's embroidery or applique or screen print or sublimation or cut and sew. Regardless of what you're doing, this is the general journey of that order. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a side trick that's specific to that process, and we're going to use the Power Scheduler in order to do that. So let me show you just kind of a quick example of kind of how statuses would work. If I was doing a traditional invoice and I just started it in Printavo, probably the first thing I would do is to send that out for approval. And as soon as I change that status to send it out for approval, you notice one of the things that's going to happen is 2 messages are going to get generated. So we're going to generate the first message via email. We've set up a little email template. It's smart, so we use short codes in order to populate this information, whatever we want to populate in here. This right here is a text message, because I have text messaging enabled in my account, and I also have a phone number for the client. It's automatically going to text that client. We don't have to do an approval here because the customer ordered it online, but just for a traditional order that we would just invoice through Printavo, we would do that. If I go over here and we now have got the customer approved, they paid, and so I sent out a payment request, they paid, it's going to automatically change my status over here to paid, because when they click on the payment request, it's automating this. And a huge part of Printavo is automating, and you can automate literally anything. You can automate tasks, you can automate messages, you can automate putting things on the Power Scheduler. You can automate when you change one status to another, it triggers a whole series of events. So what we triggered here when we hit paid, we just triggered another message that says, hey, thanks for the money. Right now, what I also did is I pinged the art department and I said, hey, art department, it's ready for you. We got the money now. And so I just tasked you to review the artwork, to start the artwork process. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to assign that to an artist. I could automatically assign that to an artist, but artists, we got a pretty big staff and sometimes people take vacations. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to Elaine right there. And she's got it. And when she's done with the art and the whole art team is done with the art, what they're going to do is we're going to slide this into pre-production. We have an automation set up here. So as soon as this slides into pre-production, we're going to throw that order onto the Power Scheduler. And this is where Printavo really shines. So we talked about that general journey of the order. Here's the general journey of the order, how every order rolls through my system. But now when we hit pre-production and we go into production, we're going to take a side trip. And so the side trip is unique for embroidery, for screen printing, for sublimation, for DTF, for cut and sew, whatever you're doing, this side trip is going to be different based on the process. And what you're going to notice right here is it's still attached to the same invoice. So it's this $34.52, but it's split into 2 parts, 1 and 2. Power Scheduler is where we split an order off into its component parts. A lot of folks that have used Printavo over the years, or folks that use other shop management software, are familiar with a calendar system where you have a calendar over here and you have all your jobs on your calendar. You have all the high-level information. You can click on a job, see what's going on here. This is everything that's in production right now. And I'm just going to click on this right now. That's a very typical way that shop management software, or even Printavo, would manage production, is using a calendar with jobs. You can drag and drop jobs around, reposition them, put them into time slots. But once you're at scale, and especially if you have a lot of orders trickling in over time that you have to compile, this starts getting pretty clouded up. And one of the things that I think is really important as a shop owner, and we owned a collegiate sportswear business, our family business, before I got into this side of the business many years ago, was making sure that all the micro steps that were required to get everything ready to produce on our screen printing equipment or embroidery equipment were handled so that we didn't have operators sitting around twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do because something was backed up. What the Power Scheduler does is it allows you to have more of a granular view of what's going on, so everybody can see what they need to do in their department to get everything ready for production, and we don't have to worry so much about drop balls. And ultimately what we want is those operators to come in and have all their jobs lined up throughout the day so they can set up job 1, complete it, tear it down, set up job 2, and they're not waiting around because something's backed up because goods didn't get purchased or the film didn't get produced. In the context of the Power Scheduler, it's a little different, because if we go into the Power Scheduler, we can take that side journey, but we can also set up all those micro steps in here. So in embroidery, the steps are going to be very different for production than they're going to be in screen printing. So like one of the things I'm probably going to do is select hoop type in here. The reason I would do that is I'm doing sleeves. I probably want to do them all together, just kind of get in the groove. And so I want to schedule all my sleeve jobs together, or maybe I'm doing haps, going to schedule them all together. I also have some visibility on maybe one machine over another is a little bit better job on hats. So I kind of want to know what my hoop type is. These are customizable. I can set up any type of micro steps for that process that I want. And I can reorder the columns. I can set up all the different drop downs, what I needed to say in the drop downs. And so I've set this whole process up very specific to the way I like to work for embroidery. But these steps are very different from screen printing. And so I can see all the steps. So let's take this particular job right here. Let's say, hey, it's already gone through receiving. We've already picked a platen, so we're going to use a standard platen. Screens are done. So we got the screens finished, but maybe there's a hang up over here. So they still need to mix the ink. I can see at a glance exactly what's going on with this order. And I can do that right from within the invoice. I can go right into the invoice, just click on schedule and see exactly what's going on with this particular order. Do I even need to put it on a date here? I could just use this as just a frame of reference for processing this job. Just click into the job from the calendar, click on schedule, see what's going on, be super easy. But there's another way of doing it, and that's using the actual views in Power Scheduler. So if I go over here to Power Scheduler, you have different views, and I'm going to go over here to List View because that's very similar to what we saw in the individual invoice. But the difference is you're seeing all your orders now. I'm in embroidery. We're kind of stacked up in embroidery over here, and I'm seeing exactly what's going on for all of my embroidery jobs. It looks like we have a kind of a little bit of a block here with the test stitch outs. So it looks like we're probably backed up and digitizing. So I can see at a glance kind of where the bottlenecks are and maybe where we need to put some extra people on it, or maybe light a little fire from management because somebody's not necessarily holding up their end of the deal. I'm seeing all the micro steps, but the more interesting thing is to see views, because I can set up views that are very specific. And I'm going to go over here to my screen printing jobs. So here's all the screen printing jobs. Looks like we have a whole bunch of jobs that have come in that haven't been scheduled yet. But if I go over to the views right here and I go to receiving, the people in my purchasing department, my front office people, they can see at a glance all the things they're responsible for. I can go to my view right now and see the things I'm responsible for. And looks like screen room is asleep at the wheel. So probably want to go ahead and get those screens caught up in there. And you notice once I check this off the list, it drops off my list because we've already completed that step. And so the screen room can see all of the things they're responsible for and that have not been completed. And same thing, we set up a view for the stock room here. We can add all kinds of custom views here. We can save views. You can manage views, add them, delete them. And then in these little areas right here, this is where you can set up all the kind of granular details of what you want in the drop-down list. It's super easy, super flexible, and it's designed so that you can accommodate the way you work. When we had our shop, we worked off a system that had a whiteboard. That's where we put all the jobs on production, so we knew what we needed to print during the week, and it was a giant whiteboard. And then we worked off of job envelopes. So a copy of the work order went in the envelope, copy of the film went in the envelope. If there was a sew out, all the sewing instructions went in the envelope. And when that envelope got lost in the office, it was chaos, right? And we have a rush order that would come in, and we had the whiteboard. So, get out the dry erase and start moving things around. It looked like a mess. So it was, for us, being able to accommodate rush orders was super challenging. And it was family business. My dad could never say no to a rush order because he looked at it as found money. But our production manager wasn't too thrilled about that because it would just kind of back us up. The idea is being able to look at everything that's going on and not having to have a whiteboard, but being able to have that high level information. So 3 things that are very important can happen. The operator, the person that's responsible for that part of the job, getting it through our process, can see what they need to get done. We can identify any bottlenecks that might be happening. Maybe need to apply some more people to, or maybe we need more resources in the art department. But most importantly, accountability. A manager can go and poke in here and say, hey, screen room, what's the deal? You got like 22 orders in here that haven't been started, and I've got our screen printing operators over here just kind of waiting because we haven't got things going on. We can identify that bottleneck, make that person accountable, and then solve it. So that visibility is critically important. Now, there's a lot of jobs going on in here, and I need to make sure that all of my equipment is functioning at peak performance. So how am I going to do that? Well, as these jobs have been coming in from InkSoft and we've been converting them over to invoices, I've been putting them on the Power Scheduler. And as they come on the Power Scheduler, what I can do is I can go pick up a job and say, hey, this is everything that we got going on job-wise. Okay, let's get this scheduled. And all I need to do is go over here and select minutes. That's a 36-piece job right there. I'm going to put in, it's a screen print job. It's 3 colors. I'm going to go ahead and put in, I know the colors because a little circle there. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in 120 minutes for that job. I'm not sure what station I'm going to put it on yet, but 36 pieces, that's probably going to be on manual 1. So I'm going to drop that onto manual 1. And then what I'm going to do on manual 1, I'm going to look at a date here. I'm going to say, okay, so here it is on manual 1. Do I have any availability on Monday? Yeah, I do. I've got tons of availability. I haven't used up any of my minutes for Monday, so I'm just going to drop that in there. And then there's our order. I can see at a glance exactly how much capacity I have by date, how much capacity I have by piece of equipment. And what some people do, especially folks in embroidery, they might have a specific person that's assigned to a machine. It's just a really easy way to allocate your jobs to equipment. And especially during busy times of the year when you only have limited capacity, part of the side journey is just that accountability in the list view and being able to see what's going on and the micro steps in order to get that order out the door. But the other part about it is making sure your equipment is running at maximum capacity. This was my experience as in a family imprinting business. We had lead time. And so that lead time was a direct result of being able to get the artwork done, get it completed through the pre-press phase, get the film printed, and make sure we had capacity on the machines. That's what dictated the lead time. So if we were backed up in any of those areas, we're going to have to push the lead time out. The other thing that we wanted to make sure that we're doing is we wanted to make sure all of our machinery was scheduled out. We wanted to make sure that our big oval automatic was scheduled out. It was running back to back to back, that our manual operators on our 6-station manuals were booked up for the entire week. We needed to be able to do that. So we used a whiteboarding system to do it. It wasn't very accurate. And again, if we had a rush order that dropped in there, it was going to be a nightmare. Because we have this visual scheduling tool, think of it as a kind of a digital assistant. If I needed to free up some capacity over here for a 500-piece order that came in on Auto 2, super easy for me to do that because I'm going to see a date down here and say, I'm just going to drop it onto Auto 1 down here. Now I freed up some capacity so I can drop in that bigger order here, and maybe I won't complete it today. So maybe I won't get the whole thing done today. But you know what I can do? I can split it into 2 orders, and I can say, hey, part of this is today, part of this is going to be on Wednesday or tomorrow, up to me. Maybe I'll just throw that onto our manual. So I have that visual reference in order to make sure that all of my equipment is running at peak performance, that we're booked up. I have the ability to shorten my lead times. And most importantly, I probably don't have to invest in more equipment because I'm getting more out of the equipment I have because I'm booked up all the time. And that's the beauty of the Power Scheduler. So this is the side journey that the order goes on as it's going through production. And something very, very important to note is we split these part of the embroidery part into the Power Scheduler for the embroidery jobs, even though it's on the same invoice. And we split the screen printing part over here into screen printing, even though it's on the same invoice. Now it goes through production. It's done. What do we do with that invoice? Pretty straightforward. Invoice is over here. It's completed. It's gone through all of its production phases. So production complete. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check off and I'm going to move it back to InkSoft. So the way I do that is just go over here to more actions and say, mark as ready to ship, pick up in InkSoft, and then I'm done. And so at this point, the order was started in InkSoft. It's going to end its journey in InkSoft because We already have the confirmations went out to the customer. They're getting tracking from the shipping from that order they placed through the e-commerce store. Let's go back to InkSoft and take a look at that real quick. Go to Order Manager, go to Ready to Ship, and there's my order. And so at this point, weights and dimensions, using ShipStation integration, going to get a price quote, going to ship it, tracking is going to automatically go out to the customer. So this part of the journey is going to end at InkSoft, and that's the whole cycle. And by the way, over here, you'll notice there's a link back to the Printavo order. So if I go over to Order Manager and I go into this order right here, what you're going to see is a link back to Printavo and the status in Printavo. So it's updating that on the fly as well. Let's recap real quick. We go to Stores, orders come in, the order automatically flows into Printavo. When it's in Printavo, it's just going to say in Printavo. When it's in production, it's going to say Printavo in production. We go back to Printavo, we go to Storefronts, we pick up the order, we convert it to an invoice, we walk it through its production steps, and then we move it back to InkSoft when we're all done. This seamless integration of the shop management functionality of Printavo and this incredible e-commerce capability of InkSoft combined into a single, seamless, integrated workflow. Let's talk about how the graphics got in here. The third part of the suite of products is GraphicsFlow. If you sign up for integration where you have InkSoft Unlimited and you also get Printavo Premium, GraphicsFlow is going to be included in your plan. And so what is GraphicsFlow going to enable you to do? At its core, GraphicsFlow is a massive archive of production-ready artwork for apparel decoration and signage. It's thousands of interactive design templates. It gives me the ability to select a design that's already set up for screen printing, color separated, already color optimized for direct-to-film or DTG. And if I wanted to go in and customize this design, I could download this into Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW and manually edit it, but I don't need to do that because I can edit this vector graphic right now in the cloud. Let's change that out with lacrosse sticks, see what it looks like. So we'll put those lacrosse sticks in there. Let's come over here. Let's swap that out with the tiger. Massive library of vector clip art in here. So we're going to put Bunny the Tiger in there. And I'm not going to do a multi-layer text effect. I'm just going to do a single layer. I'm going to go over here and type out tigers. And then over here, just add water. Don't need it. And where it says West Coast over here, I'm going to say lacrosse. Turn off Bar Cafe. And then let's switch the font out over here. So let's go down to fonts and we'll just do classic collegiate font, which is our game day font. Let's go back and get the colors all squared away. Over here, we're going to take these lacrosse sticks. This color right here is going to become gray. This color right here is going to become black. So we're going to make the blue gray. Got the outline on that tiger. So let's go over here and change that tiger outline to black. So literally anybody on your team can produce graphics at a custom level without having to be any kind of graphic designer. It's just a super efficient way of being able to get ideas in front of customers and produce custom artwork. And this is color separated. So if you're going to film, it's vector artwork, you can download this design into Illustrator, CorelDRAW, do advanced editing if you want. But I'm going to save the design here. GraphicsFlow also has a capability for storing all your vector art. And the cool part is it also creates all of your file previews from your common graphics format. Zip this off to a customer. So I'm going to add this to an art approval. And send this off to my client. All I got to do is subscribe them to this art approval. Let's actually drop that onto a gray shirt. Do kind of a charcoal gray. So when I share with the customer, just put their email in here. I can pick a permission that says you can only view, or you can view and comment, or you can view, comment, and approve. So I can just pop an email in here and send it through our system. Or I can just grab this link and put it in my own email. Customer gets it. They can add comments. They want to approve it. They just hit approve. Click through my terms. This can all be customized. And now I actually have a log of the design. So if they come back down the road and say, hey, that's not really what I approved, we're like, well, you know, it says here that you approved this on Wednesday, May 22nd at 11:51 Mountain Standard Time, and the person that approved it, their email lined up with Craig Mertens. It's just a really easy way to get art approvals over to customers or just get ideas over to customers. But where this helps with Printavo and InkSoft integration is sales enablement, being able to generate more business. And I think anyone that's owned a shop, is dealing with end users, has had the experience of them going on to a custom ink type website, designing something, grabbing a screen grab, sending it to you and saying, hey, can you do something like this? Or bringing in some form of source artwork for the internet and having to recreate that. I think those are some of the most expensive orders we do, because if we take an honest look at the amount of human capital that goes into rebuilding that artwork or creating it, it can get pretty expensive, especially on small orders. If it's a big order, you can justify the extra cost, but on small orders, unless you're going to have reorders, sometimes you're losing money on that. It's important because we have here is what we call an art portal, and that's a huge part of GraphicsFlow, and it's a huge revenue generator for both Printavo users as well as InkSoft users. And what that portal allows me to do is select either designs by category, clip art by category, fonts by category, and populate those into a portal where the customer can select graphics. The other thing I can do is I can now feature my own designs. So in my portal, not only have I included designs from the stock art from GraphicsFlow, but I've gone in and customized those designs for East Eagles. And so then I have custom designs in my portal as well. And I've set that up. So the first thing somebody sees in my portal is those customized designs. I've also added some additional showcases of different vertical markets into my portal. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on the portal real quick so you can see what it looks like. And this portal can operate as a standalone website. We can drop a link in here and link this into any web tool. It could be Wix or WordPress. But where it gets really interesting is when we start linking this into InkSoft. If we click on portal, at the top, I put the East Eagles designs. And then we have all these customized designs here. And as we go in here, and maybe they want to see all the designs, not just the ones I'm featuring, they can go to design ideas. They can type in soccer. They can look by style. They want to submit a design for customization. All they need to do is just click on it, add it, put any notes in here. We have this set up so we have custom lead collection fields here. So they can submit source artwork. So if they have a specific mascot they want, they hit submit. And you know where that goes? It goes right in here to design requests. I pick up that request, assign it to a person, and I want to do the editing. And because this was a stock design that was in the portal, I don't have to go in and download it to Illustrator or CorelDRAW. I can have a front office person or a salesperson just go and customize this real quick. This is the power of GraphicsFlow combined with InkSoft and Printavo. So how do Printavo users use GraphicsFlow? They use it to populate quotes and invoices to generate business with their customers. They use it for lead collection. How do InkSoft users use GraphicsFlow? They use it for exactly the use case that's in this particular store. They use it to collaborate with customers so they don't have to be recreating all this artwork from scratch all the time. They use it to showcase artwork. Like one of the best practices that I would suggest if you're doing a lot of schoolwork is populate the featured art with graphics from the local schools in your area. It gives you credibility. It makes it look like you're doing business with those people, whether you are or not. It makes you look more professional. But the other thing that they're doing with this is creating their own custom designs and making them editable. That's the way that GraphicsFlow works alongside of InkSoft and Printavo integration. We're utilizing it as a lead generation tool. We're utilizing it as a way to rapidly deploy artwork, get ideas in front of customers, collaborate with them, establish ourselves as a creative resource. And the most important part of this is anyone on your team can edit and manipulate the graphics in GraphicsFlow. It doesn't require me to go back to the art department, do an art request, and have them mock something up. We can create the artwork right directly in GraphicsFlow, and in Printavo, we can use either the mockup creator or the rapid product creator in InkSoft to create the mockup and deploy that into a store in InkSoft, or deploy that artwork into a quote in Printavo. For those of you that are not familiar with InkSoft, and for those of you that are familiar with InkSoft, I think one of the most important functionalities that we've added in the last couple of years is what we call store cloning. The store that you just got done seeing there actually started out as a very different store. It started out as Central Boosters, And what I did is I cloned this store, and then I used bulk art replacement to take all the central boosters graphics, and then I modified all those central boosters graphics in GraphicsFlow to say East Eagles, and I did global art replacement to replace all the artwork on those products, so I didn't have to recreate. And then all I did is went into store admin, I went into branding, and I updated the logos and updated the colors, and I got a completely unique store. And I can do that for any vertical market I want. I could do that for corporate stores. I could do that for a specific store that's dedicated to selling signage. It's however I want to do it. So same store right here, but just localized to another group, another organization. Same graphics, everything, just using global art swap. That's another really, I think, unique aspect of InkSoft is the ability to deploy these stores very rapidly, because you might be using a generic e-commerce platform where you're having to create those mock-ups. In InkSoft, you don't have to do that. You use the Rapid Product Creator. The ability to create these mock-ups, the ability to automatically connect to supplier feeds, so it's populating pricing, checking inventory, the ability to clone stores so you can rapidly mobilize a store. And now you have the ability to have best of both worlds with your e-commerce and that seamless workflow into Printavo for your job management and production scheduling. Thank you again for joining us on InkSoft Academy and letting us introduce to you integration between InkSoft and Printavo.